space is that if you already have an established space within your local area, you typically can get a discount if you talk to the community organization, the office team there. They could typically talk to you about discounts, whether it's paying for extra time in a certain office, or you can find a membership where essentially you can utilize the other offices across the globe. And so what you're really doing is you're maximizing your membership. So you've already listened to season 1 episodes 2, 3 and 4, where we've talked about maximizing your space. We've talked about making the best out of your co-working membership. So you've done all that. So at this episode and at this point in the season, you found your co-working space, you understand the co-working concept, you found a space that you just love, you love the community, you love the administration that works there, you love the community of entrepreneurs that you're surrounded by. And at this point, or you're an entrepreneur that has done all this and have established all of this reputation, and now you're ready to expand. And so the good thing is working in a co-working shared space with those options of franchise, and they have multiple locations, it's a great way for you to connect and build those relationships to where you can connect to those next ones. So a lot of people, what they've been doing, especially if you have a really solid product, if you're the type that, more specifically, if you like to go to different vending events, which is still valid, vending events are great, but I've seen it where entrepreneurs actually have product, where they actually take it and they work out a deal or a relationship with the actual co-working space that they have a membership in. They can actually leave some of their products there. And so when people come by, or if they're doing like an event that is like an entrepreneur market opening, or you're learning about other businesses, now you have your product in various different parts of the organization of the co-working shared space. Not only, let's say, for example, you work with a co-working space that has locations in Chicago, Miami, New York, and California. That's four, four cities alone that you can actually have your brand in. And so let's say your main location is in Chicago. You've built that, you have a customer base, client base, you have partnerships, you do events there. People are pretty well known of your brand. When they see you, they know the brand, they know what you're about, they know that you're a solid business owner, they know that you're making impact in your community. And so you're deciding to leave the Chicago market, keep your business there, but you're not leave, but expand your actual current market into places like Atlanta, New York, and California. So, working in a space that actually has that can extremely be beneficial, and it can be low cost savings because you already have the membership, and it may typically be $100 to $200 more, depending on, again, the membership that you have with your current co-working space, right? So if you have that and you've built that relationship, a lot of the times they give discounts. And so they're not just going to send you over and say, hey, you have to pay an additional membership. They may charge you for the time spent in the co-working space a little bit extra. Or because you have that membership and you have maybe a higher paying membership, you still have the opportunity to actually travel to other locations that they have their space in, and you're able to use that space. So within one shared space, there is a possibility that you can expand your brand into four, 3 to 4, or even more. But I wouldn't say do that all at once. But there's an opportunity, at least, especially if you're working with a franchised co working space, you can expand your business to new markets. How amazing is that? Without worrying about the cost of overhead, without having to worry about getting a building, whether leasing or owning a building. And you get the opportunity to meet new entrepreneurs in those cities as well. You get to learn the target market. You get to learn what your target audience there likes. Because again, depending on market and depending on area, everybody has specific likes, needs, wants, and desires when it comes down to a product or service. So it still gives you the opportunity to travel, which is what a lot of people do. And if you're a savvy and smart entrepreneur, you're definitely finding those deals, and you're planning and creating an actual travel budget, not only for the month or for the first 6 months, which is, typically suggested that you do like your first 6 months, but typically your full year. So you want to plan your travel for the whole year, but you want to also split it in 6 months and create a strategy. So that way, within at least the first 6 months of the year and within the first 2 quarters, with your traveling plans, you can see what worked, what didn't work, what helped you become more profitable, what locations weren't necessarily the spot for you, and you can make the necessary adjustments so that you can end the last 2 quarters and the last half of the year much more successful than you started. Because that's the goal, right? That's all we ever want to do is make sure that we're profiting in our business and making sure that we're growing all the time. So definitely working in that type of environment and working in a co-working space or a shared space that actually has multiple franchises can expand your brand and increase your brand in other markets within a vast majority of time. And so if you've spent at least a year or two perfecting and mastering your craft, and typically that's what most business owners and entrepreneurs and what most business consultants would say, is that you really need to focus on your business in one central location first. Understanding your target audience, understanding your market, getting your brand out there, making your brand a household name. So if you've mastered those things first, and if you've completed those items first, then definitely when it comes down to expansion, that's going to make it the most easy because you already know who what your target audience is. And then working out of a co-working space, you have that membership. So typically, again, you can travel to these other locations and utilize those spaces. You can even do test runs of your business and again, complete the networking process all over again to get people more familiar in other locations of your actual brand. So it's a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time for entrepreneurs. I really want to give a shout out to millennials. I am a proud millennial, and nothing against my baby boomers, nothing against Gen Y or anything of that nature, but I definitely have to say as a millennial, we have found ways to work smarter and not harder. Still get the same high level results without putting in all of the extra labor. And I won't say extra labor because sometimes extra labor is actually good, right? You don't want to just put in 60%. You want to put in I rather put in 120% than to put in 60%. I know that 110% is going to benefit me in the long term. Anyway, so us as millennials, we find ways to work smarter, not harder. And so a lot of millennials now utilize the co-working concept on a consistent basis. It's known, people are knowing about it, more people are getting educated about it, and they're using it to build their brands and to build themselves. And so it's a great time, right? Because now we're taking a membership that we have in one location, understanding that it's an actual co-working shared space that has multiple locations in different cities. This gives us the opportunity to expand and to get our business and our products or services in other people's hands across the nation. How huge is that? Now you're getting your business, you're getting your brand, your product, or your services in more people's hands. You're getting more information to people. You're tapping into new markets, and you're doing it without having to spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just to have people come to one location. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong, again, brick and mortar. I'm all for the brick and mortar. There are brick and mortar businesses that have relationships and partnerships with co working spaces just simply because it helps them to tap into the market and to tap into other entrepreneurs and to build more stronger partnerships. Because essentially, when you're working with any type of business, partnership, collaboration is always key. And so that's a very exciting thing. And of course, we'll get more into the collaboration piece down the road. So more to come on that. But I just feel like as a millennial, we have definitely raised the bar on not saying going the extra mile because we want to go the extra mile, but we definitely work smarter, not harder. And we don't do unnecessary labor. That was my thought process. Not extra labor, because sometimes that extra labor, if it's beneficial, will help the longevity of your business. But we have mastered, I feel, in my opinion, give a little pat on my shoulder, as millennials have mastered not doing unnecessary labor, not wasting time doing things or spending time doing unnecessary work and unnecessary things that can actually cause the process to be longer, and it could actually waste more time in other places where we could actually be spending more time in our business, whether that's spending more time in your marketing and understanding your marketing plan, even more time in your travel, or more time creating and rebranding or even enhancing your current product or services that you have. So we've mastered spending more time where it counts, because no one wants to spend time in business on things that are unnecessary. And then, of course, that's why we have the right partnerships. That's why we hire the right people to do the necessary things for us to make sure that we're getting the most out of our business and that we are maximizing it. But working in a shared space that has that, and that has that franchise, and that gives you the opportunity to go other places, it's incredible. And so, one thing you should definitely do if you are working or looking in a co working space that's franchised, definitely think about a travel budget. That's number one, that's key. Set a travel budget for yourself. Think about all the places that you've been wanting to travel to. Now, I'm not saying just go and travel just to travel. You can do that on your leisure time. I'm talking about building your actual brand. I'm talking about understanding your target market. I'm talking about following your structured business plan. Take the time to look at the goals that you had within the first year, two, three, and five. Okay. Your first year, your second year, your third year, and your fifth year. Okay. Look at those items on your business plan and ask yourself, with me wanting to travel and expand my brand, am I at the point that I'm ready to do that? Have I mastered my current location? Have I mastered my target audience in this current location? Have I maximized the partnerships that I have in my local location? Have I mastered all of the events and necessary items to keep long term customers and to keep long term partnerships with my local brand, right? If you have mastered that, if you're in line with your business plan, if you're being profitable, if you're doing what's necessary and your business is thriving, then this should be the point where you should be looking at. And if you're interested, obviously, let me step back a little bit. And obviously, if you're interested in actually expanding your brand, then this is definitely the step that you want to take. And so that's the first thing, is creating that travel budget and seeing where you want to go, where exactly you want to expand. So let's say you're currently in the Chicago market and you found an interest in expanding in Atlanta and Arizona. I'll use Atlanta and Arizona because I'm here, and expanding to Atlanta and Arizona. So take a look at that. You've already mastered, you've done the research in addition to mastering your Chicago location and your local Chicago area. But now you've done your research on Atlanta, you know your target market, you know where you need to go, you know who you need to connect with. Same thing for Arizona. Now you've done the research, you've mastered your current local area, and now you've mastered your city, and you've researched and you've saw what's necessary in these two lines of cities in Atlanta and Arizona. Well, I said Arizona. Atlanta's a city. Arizona, let's say Phoenix, okay? So Atlanta and Phoenix. You've done the research, you've mastered what your target audience could look like. You know who you need to connect with in these cities. So now that you know that and you know how much time and what the time frame is going to be to actually expand in those areas, next step is to create that travel budget. Take a look and see how many times you'll actually need to go out there, how many times you'll need to be in these cities throughout the year. Is it you even going to those cities, or are you actually sending someone to do more market research on your behalf? So think about those items once you've figured out where you want to expand. How much time you need to spend out there? Does it mean you need to relocate for a temporary amount of time to actually understand and foster the area? That could be another option as well. Some people send others to research the area for them, and then some people just actually go themselves while having a dedicated person that they trust to watch their business where it's thriving already. And so those are the couple of items that you want to think about when creating your travel budget. Knowing and understanding how long you need to be in these areas that you want to expand, what you need to do. If that means coming out every month, does that mean traveling back and forth from your current city to those areas that you want to expand? So those are things that you want to identify and that you want to notate when you're creating your travel budget. Additionally, too, what I would suggest, and I find this great because that's something that I do every time that I typically go and travel, not just even for my podcast, even for my day job. What I like doing, even when I travel places, I like to go to networking events. And I like to go to networking events that make sense. I'm not talking about just going to a networking event because that's something else that we're going to talk about in a show episode down the road. But a lot of the times, now I'm very cautious and careful with the type of networking events that I go to. I want to